revenge then. Not the most interesting necessarily, because I think remorse is more interesting, but the beginning must be with revenge. So let's hear about it.
Well, after when the war is over, at Kurukshetra, the last night, there are only 3 surviving Kauravas. And these 3 take shelter under a tree. This is Ashwathama, Kripa, and Kritavarman. And the other 2 are dog-tired and they fall asleep. But Ashwathama stays awake. And he looks up at a banyan tree. And in that tree, there are crows sleeping. And on the right, there's an owl which sees these sleeping crows and pounces at them at one moment and creates a vast massacre of these sleeping crows. And Ashwathama says, now I have learned what I must do. And I must take revenge for my father. His father was Drona, who was killed so unfairly. I must take revenge for my father, and I must kill the Pandavas. And the only way to do it is at night when they're asleep. And he wakes up, Kripa and Kritavarman, and they are horrified at this thought, but he won't be moved, and off he goes. And of course, they commit the most horrible crime in the Mahabharata, which is to burn the camps of the sleeping armies. And after that, the mood of the epic just keeps going down and down. And so from a tale of victory, it becomes a tale of defeat, in fact. The Pandavas are really devastated, and everybody is devastated after that. And so this raises a whole question. The epic raises this question about revenge. And what did he do? And can one, what could be the punishment of a crime like this? And of course he is punished. But before we get into that, what struck me is that today, we have in liberal democracies enshrined the idea of retributive justice, and therefore the whole discussion is what's the right punishment for a crime, and that's really what judges debate about, and they give different judgments in different countries, or even different in the same country, and whether capital punishment is justified. But what occurs to me is I was really struck by what happened in South Africa and how they put aside retributive justice, and in its place people like Desmond Tutu and Nelson Mandela
reconciliation.
Let's have reconciliation. Let's have forgiveness, and they set up this Truth and Reconciliation Commission. So I asked myself that what if we could do the same in Gujarat? And I suggested in an open letter to Narendra Modi, I said to him that after he won the election, I said, now be magnanimous. You've won a big victory. We know even Muslims have voted for you. Why don't you come out and say that I seek forgiveness of the people of Gujarat, the Muslims of Gujarat, for what happened? There's no attempt here to say who did what and who was to blame, but do the same sort of attempt to get closure to the events of 2002. And as a result of that column, Professor J.S. Bandukwala, who was a professor, very respected Muslim leader of Gujarat, came forward and said the week after that the Muslims of Gujarat seek forgiveness of the Hindus for the events that happened in 2002, whether it was Godhra or whatever, and let's try to get closure. And there was a lot of criticism for my position also.
And his.
Yeah,
sure.
And from the liberals, who said he must pay for what he did. Liberal democratic principles must have retribution. And I think that, of course, Narendra Modi never did anything. And so I think he lost a great opportunity.
But tell me, assuming he had, and assuming we had moved forward, it's something like South Africa, is it enough? Is it enough that you stand up and say, look, I'm sorry it happened, now let's move on and do something else. Let's be constructive and futuristic. Or is it something more that's required? You talk in this book about remorse. Is remorse something more than reconciliation, or is reconciliation not possible without remorse? I find there's an interesting bit that you've written here about an interaction you had with Mr. Rahul Gandhi when you wrote something on remorse, and then he sent you an email.
Yeah. That's really, one of the interesting things about writing a column is that occasionally you will get letters, and he is one of the few persons who will send me an email once in a while. This happened, Salman, at the time of when Benazir Bhutto was assassinated in Pakistan. And I was writing my chapter on Yudhishthira and remorse after the war. Yudhishthira was irreconcilable. He suffered so deeply from what happened that he wanted to become a hermit. And of course it created a crisis for the throne. And the rest of the Mahabharata that Shanti Parvan is an effort to cool him down and to persuade him to stay on. And before I do that, I think we have to take a break, and I'll come back and tell you what happened to that email of Rahul Gandhi's.